I mean, the practice of law, if you boil it down to what it basically is, it's the pursuit of truth. It's a battle of good and evil. And the caveat is nobody really knows what side that they're on at the very start of litigation.
Hello and welcome to the Attorney Post, where we give you the inside scoop with top attorneys in their field. And now, here's our host, Justin West.
All right, everybody, hello and welcome back to the Attorney Post, where we discuss what's going on in various facets of the law with attorneys at the top of their game to help you navigate the ins and outs of various legal fields and jurisdictions. Because as I always say, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Today, I'm very pleased to be joined by attorney Omar Serrato of the Eagle Law Firm out in San Bernardino, California. Omar, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Awesome. Well, glad to have you on the show. As always, before we get started, we're going to jump over and take a look at your website. This is the website for the Eagle Law Firm. Their website is eaglelawfirm.com. As always, we will have a link to his website down below. Also, I think he has a phone number somewhere. I'll get that to you if I can say it out loud. Or what's the best number for people to call your firm?
909-757-6540.
There it is. I just found it as I said that. So, so Eagle Law Firm is a law firm that specializes in immigration, family law, civil litigation, and criminal defense. So we're going to be talking to Omar about the various things that he does. Before we do that, however, as always, we are going to read from our sponsors. Our first sponsor today is Habanero Social. What if Google could send you free clients every single month? Well, it's not a fantasy, it's a reality with habanerosocial.com. Habanero Social is an AI-powered platform that optimizes your Google business profile to attract more local customers or clients effortlessly. From cranking out high-quality content to managing reviews and fine-tuning your local SEO, Habanero Social handles it all while you sit back and watch your business grow. 95% of searches never leave page one, and if it's a local search, 85% never leave the Maps pack on page one, so that Maps pack is where you want to be. An optimized Google business profile doesn't just show up, it engages and it builds trust. It increases clicks and ultimately boosts your business. And Habanero Social is so confident that what they do works. They offer a 3 times ROI guarantee. If you don't make at least 3 times more than you spend with them, they will refund your money or work for free. They're that serious. Stop wasting your time on old school tactics. Habanero Social automates everything you need to rank higher, engage better, and drive more clients to your business. That's habanerosocial.com. Our second sponsor at the top of the hour is Groove Pages. Listen up, entrepreneurs and dream chasers. If you're running an online business, it doesn't mean you have to be drowning in subscriptions or wrestling with a messy tech stack. Groove is rolling out a jaw-dropping limited time offer. You can run your entire operation. Think stunning websites with Groove Pages, high converting sales funnels, email campaigns, e-commerce stores, even affiliate programs, all for an entire year for what you're paid for 1 month with the other guys. That's $299 for 1 full year, and you can actually try it out for 30 days for free and make sure it's a good fit for you. We use it to build a number of the things that we use in our day-to-day business, and we think you will have a great experience with it too. You can visit them online at theattorneypost.com/groove to take advantage of this offer right now. That's theattorneypost.com/groove. And as always, we will have links to all of our sponsors as well down in the box. All right. So I am again joined with Omar Serrato. He is the managing attorney over there at the Eagle Law Firm. And he brings a wealth of courtroom experience, having tried multiple cases to verdict in criminal, civil, family, and again, immigration law. He's a graduate of the University of Laverne College in 2003. He honed his skills as a student intern and bar certified clerk at the San Bernardino District Attorney's Office. His vision for the firm stems from recognizing the shortage of trial-capable attorneys, driving him to build a team committed to aggressive, client-focused litigation. Serrato's extensive trial experience, including multi-million-dollar security fraud lawsuits and hundreds of motions argued across California's courtrooms, ensure that clients always receive seasoned and strategic representation. Now, that was a mouthful, and I think it barely even scratched the surface. So, Omar, my very first question to you, as always, is just this: what did I miss?
Well, I mean, you said a mouthful. I'm not sure what you missed, but no, I think you got it. I'm pretty much I focus. Well, nowadays, most of my practice is based around family law, civil litigation. I still do criminal defense. Of course, the immigration world is a changing landscape of stuff, of things uncertain. So, I think that I haven't read that description of my website for a long time, but I think that it's pretty accurate. I mean, I think that the numbers have probably gone up. I think that description is probably 7 years old or so. But yeah, it all still applies. I think that the difficulty when you're choosing a lawyer is that you're oftentimes you're looking for somebody to give you exactly what you want. You want somebody to go in there representing you in court, and they want to be the big bulldog or whatever, and advocate ferociously on your behalf. But I think that there's too many attorneys out there that either are unwilling or unable or just not comfortable with taking on the big case and taking it all the way to trial and doing all the things and putting in the work uh, in a way that's going to make your case effective. And so I think my biggest complaint that I see for people that are looking for attorneys is just that. Like, I don't know, my attorney just feels like a pushover. He just doesn't know what he's talking about, or they propose this one thing and now he's trying to get me to take their proposal and he's not fighting for me. That's what I hear. And I think that I've made a career now based on not doing those things and just advocating for my client's position, which is, hard to find nowadays.
No, that makes perfect sense. So tell me about your firm. Give me your pitch, if you will. You kind of gave it to me there a little bit, but tell me who specifically you help. I know you're located in San Bernardino. How
Yeah.
far around there do you operate? What do you guys really specialize in? What are the main kinds of things like inside of family law? Is it mostly divorce stuff? Is it custody? Is it, alimony and child support? Is it all of the above? Tell me, give me the pitch for your firm. And you already told me a little bit, of course, why people choose you, but give me
Yeah.
give me your pitch if I didn't know anything about you.
My office is actually right across from the San Bernardino courthouse, but of course, we're not limited to that courthouse. We go out to Riverside, we go out to Victorville, we go out to LA County. We go wherever we have to go. It just depends. Um, I would say it's probably a 70% family law representation nowadays. A lot of that stems from custody and visitation cases. Whether that be, father's rights, mother's rights. I mean, ultimately, we endeavor to do what's in the best interest of children. And lots of parents come to us because their child is in harm's way or because dad is trying to um, gain full custody of the child for no reason for mom, she doesn't understand, or vice versa. Child support issues, alimony issues. I mean, family law runs the gamut. But I think that you could really break it down to, what's the financial issues versus the life-changing issues. I mean, the money part of it is always, you can litigate those things, but those usually resolve very quickly. I think, um, first and foremost, when you have a family law case, the primary concern is usually going to be the thing that you're going to litigate over is going to be the minor children. And it's a very delicate topic. And I see a lot of times when it's men coming to me, it's because they feel like mom is keeping the children from them and they're acting as like this gatekeeper. And all they're fighting for is, some kind of access to their child. Is that every other weekend representation? Is it week on, week off? Is it 50-50? I don't know. I mean, you take all of these things case by case, but we believe in the family code, and so far that it demonstrates that the purpose of family law court, when you go to court, is to find what's in the best interest of your child. And sometimes what you think is in the best interest of your child is not what the court thinks is in the best interest of the child. It's in trying to understand between the two. And I always tell my clients that, look, the thing about family court is more often than not, you think about what defines good versus evil. It's difficult to define. You could define it for yourself, but is your definition going to be the same as mine? Is my definition going to be the same as yours? Mom versus dad, or whatnot, or however you want to mix it. Most of the time, like 99% of the time, people believe that they're fighting for the good, that they're fighting against evil. And so you have these knockdown, drag out World War III arguments in court because you believe that you're representing the side of good, fighting against evil. And if you lose, somehow your child is going to be harmed. That's a hell of a lot of things to consider when you're trying to figure out what you want to do with this case. And so I think one of the ways that we represent our clients is trying to find a way to make peace, because ultimately, whether or not you like it, whether or not you guys hate each other right now, whether or not you think that he is like this danger to society and to you and your child, or she is on abusing alcohol or substances or some other thing, as long as the child is not in danger or there's some other concern maybe regarding negligence, we try to find a way to allow parents to navigate the childhood, the entire childhood of the minor child. And that could be, one or multiple or whatever it is. We try to find co-parenting solutions that are going to benefit the child and preserve their childhood as best we can, given the circumstances. I mean, yeah, it didn't work out. You guys didn't have the happy Cinderella-like send-off where everybody lives happily ever after. Now your reality is you are off and fighting in family court, and you're trying to be mom, he's trying to be dad, and how does the two mesh in a way that is beneficial for your child? Those are the very hard questions that we ask. And so when I have a case where um, most of the time it is these gatekeeper solutions where dad is trying to keep mom from the child, mom's trying to keep dad from the child. We go to court and we enforce, the rights of the child. We point to the family code and we demonstrate how the courts have over and over again ruled that what's best for the child is almost always frequent and continuous visitation with both parents, to the extent that geography and time related issues would allow. And we try, look, I'm never going to go to court and abuse the court process. I'm never going to go to the courts to just simply for the purpose of destroying the other parent. That's not what I'm about. It's not what my firm is about. And if you meet a family law attorney like that, they generally don't last very long for a million different reasons. And so I think that, I don't know if I'm selling anything right now, but I think that it's really important that a family law attorney is able to empathize to some degree and just recognize that the motives of both parties are generally good. And with few exceptions, there are exceptions, but most of the time, the opposing party is not the bad guy. They're not this evil thing that you want to make them out to be. They're just somebody that's fighting for their child, same as you. You guys are fighting for the same things and you don't even know it. And so it's navigating that I think sets us apart from other firms. And then, of course, obviously, there's other heavier issues to talk about, like domestic violence and keeping men and women safe, from different attacks. And, people come to me and I don't know what to do. I don't feel like I'm safe in my house. I got this 3-month-old baby and dad is abusing narcotics and he's coming home drunk every night and he's yelling and he's screaming and he's throwing things. What do I do? In those situations, we're generally almost always able to work with whoever it is and obtain emergency orders within a day or two to make sure that they're safe. And then obviously we figure out the rest in between. That's as to family law. I mean, civil litigation is it's less heavy because it's dealing with people's money. It's not any less important because oftentimes these are still life-changing scenarios. You're arguing over more than likely a life-changing amount of money. And it's really important. You've invested your entire life into this house that's now being ripped from you, or you placed your entire life savings into trying to navigate this contract, and now you have it. And this is going to be supposed to be your big retirement plan, and somebody breached the contract in some kind of way. So we're fighting for your rights. Either way, I mean, the practice of law, if you boil it down to what it basically is, it's the pursuit of truth. It's a battle of good and evil. And the caveat is nobody really knows what side that they're on at the very start of litigation. Some people don't know what they're at, where they're at the conclusion of litigation. But in order for me to represent you, I have to believe in your side. And so it's very important to me to talk to you, not as a lawyer, but as a person, and find out what's important to you. I want to know your story. I want to know what you're about. How did you grow up? What did you, who are your heroes? Who are the villains, in your world? And get to know you in that regard and try to understand your perspective in the case. And sometimes your position changes after talking to somebody like me. Sometimes it stays exactly the same. My purpose is not to win at all costs. It's to find the right solution, which is markedly different than how a lot of other attorneys practice. And so I will end my preamble with that, I guess.
That's totally fine. It's a good answer, and it kind of tells me where you're coming from, tells my listeners where you're coming from, and anyone that's watching this online will have a good sense of what's important to you. So let's ask a little bit more of a. We'll back up for just a minute. What got you into law? Were you a kid that just always knew that law was your destiny, or is this something you kind of
No.
fell into and found that you had a knack for? And then what got you into, in particular, the aspects of law, particularly family law, that you focus on right now?
Well, I feel like law it's very much one of these professions that you don't choose it. I mean, you can, but sometimes it chooses you. I feel like I kind of fell um, into that category. I mean, I didn't know that I was going to go to law school. You know, I was studying for the GRE, trying to get some kind of a postgraduate degree. You know, considered a JD, and it was really it wasn't a dare. It was just a suggestion. Yeah, try this out. Take the LSAT and see what happens. And then I did take the LSAT, and I scored very well. And then I got offered this scholarship to go to law school. I was like, ah, I'll try it out. And then it was always like, well, I guess I'll just stick around until I flunk out. And I didn't flunk out. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to take the bar. And if I fail it, I'm just going to go do something else. But I didn't fail it. And then I became an attorney. And then I was doing this profession. I worked as an associate for many years. And then I branched out into my own firm. My initial goal was I wanted to do criminal defense and, you know, civil litigation. But the biggest need in my area where I practice is it turned out that so many people just needed help with these custody and visitation cases. It was something that I had always um, wanted to steer clear of because I never wanted to deal with cases that involved children because of, you know, the obvious
Yeah.
ramifications of that. But the more that I practiced, it just became the area of the greatest need, and I just leaned into it in a way where I got pretty good at it. And it's what I do most of now, and it's probably what I do the best.
That makes sense. Your firm has been in business since 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Uh,
2018, yes, sir.
you were in business as, of course, the pandemic hit us
Yeah.
and passed us by. I'm kind of curious. You're out there in California. I know that they had stricter measures in some places. Were you affected by the pandemic? Did it affect the way you interface with your clients? And did you notice anything like a spike in divorces, or did you actually notice
Mm,
a flat line? Because I've seen different people have different experiences. So I'm kind of curious
yeah.
how you experienced it.
I noticed a rise in DV cases. I mean, if you could imagine, you have people cooped up in the house, you know, without any form of relief, you know, can't go to work, you know, they're just stuck in there. So there's a lot greater instances of violence situations, unfortunately. I don't know if there was a spike in divorces. I feel like that's always been pretty steady, you know, no matter what time of the year it is. It usually spikes around the holidays and then, you know, it's funny how that works, but no, I think that you certainly had to become a lot more malleable in how you represent folks. It's not you can't have these face-to-face interactions. So I think people have gotten a lot more used to you know, remote contact like Zoom, like you and I are talking on Zoom right now. Um, Making remote appearances via Zoom in courts has been like a new adjustment. But I think that attorneys are starting to, hey, it's kind of nice not having to go all the way to court and wait in line and fight traffic, and you could be done in like 5 minutes as opposed to making it like a 2 hour round trip thing. So there's been some pros and cons. I think that ultimately the pandemic has led to a streamlining of the legal process that was probably overdue. And now that we're here, I think that it's ultimately benefited the way that we do business as opposed to hurt it. It forced the legal profession into the 21st century, is what I would say.
I agree with that. We actually rebooted the podcast in part because of the pandemic, because all of a sudden
Yeah.
attorneys were Zooming and everyone, we used to have to tell them, well, Zoom is this thing you have to download. And everyone it was like pulling teeth. But
Yeah.
now all of a sudden everyone Zoomed. And so it made rebooting the podcast a very natural thing. Um, okay, so let me ask you this. Now, you've been practicing for a good long while now. You're about to, another year here, you'll be crossing about a decade. And I'm a firm believer that you go up to bat enough times, nobody bats 1,000. Eventually, you strike out.
Right.
And I'm sure that in your career, you've probably had a couple of setbacks or failures or things that you would experience as
Sure.
a failure. But I'm a firm believer that every failure is just a slow burn win as long as you learn something from it. So, Omar, can you let my listeners know about a time in your practice law where you failed or you had an experience that you would consider a failure, maybe a judgment didn't go your way or whatever it happened to be. But what did you learn from it? And how do you carry that forward? Always make sure you're giving the best care to your clients.
Well, there was a trial that I had. It was a jury trial. It was a criminal case back in 2015. And no, this would have been 2016, maybe. It's around then, 15 or 16. But it was pretty serious charges. My client was facing 20 plus years in prison off of some, you know, very serious charges. Um, we had focused on the inconsistent statements of the witnesses. and what appeared to be like conjured stories, made up stories. I don't want to get into the nature of the charges or anything, but um, they involved some serious stuff. Ultimately, we did a really good job for like the first week of trial, just pointing out those inconsistencies and just springing what I believe was enough doubt into the jury's mind, where I thought that we were well on our way to victory. We were going to win this case. And we were right at the finish line. It was the last day of testimony. And my client, who was not in jail, he was out on bail, basically. So it was the eve of trial, and his ex-girlfriend was scheduled to be a witness on his behalf, a percipient witness, meaning she witnessed whatever it was that occurred.
Mhm.
And evidently, without me knowing about this, they had like a little powwow the night before she was to testify and went over what to say, went over what they were going to, what she was going to talk about, went over some of the testimony that had come out, like a complete 100% utter no-no. When she gets up to testify, the DA asked some kind of a question and just led her down or led him down like this, asking the right questions. When was the last time you spoke with the defendant? Last night. Oh, where did you speak with him last night? Well, it was at his house. What were you doing at his house? We were talking about this case. And what were you talking about? What I was going to talk about today. Well, did you talk about what other people have said? Yes, we did. And then it just came it came this thing where one of our strongest witnesses instantly became compromised.
Mm.
And the jury, I believe, um, it killed their belief in my client. And even then, I think we closed. You wrapped up testimony that day. We went into closing arguments. Closing arguments finished that afternoon, and the jury's deliberating for like 4 days. It was 4 days. It was over the weekend. I think that Friday, then going to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they call us in, and they had a verdict. Now, I was thinking if they're going past 2 days, oh, this is going to be a hung jury. I'm preparing for it to be a hung jury. But no, they came back with a verdict, and it's like, oh, they got a verdict. It must be a not guilty. I'm full on expecting to win, full on expecting it. And the jury comes back with the verdict, guilty, guilty on all counts. And I was just like, I'd never lost like that before.
Yeah.
And what was the most upsetting was, I mean, I don't know how much blame I could attribute. I mean, I had no way of knowing that they were going to do that, but it was, maybe a lack of preparation. If you have any opportunity, do not speak to your witnesses. Maybe it was just not a firm enough admonition. But just the fact when you're just in the moment and you're going through it and you can't stop it, there's just no worse feeling. It was a gut punch. I remember a client who was standing right next to me and he like vomited into a trash can because he knew he was going to be going to jail for a really long time.
Wow.
It was the one jury trial that I lost where I felt that we had it won. We had it won. It's always going to forever haunt me, that trial in particular. I mean, I honestly, I had to go to therapy over it for like a good number of months because it's just the kind of thing that sticks with you. I mean, even to this day, but I became physically ill for a good long while after it happened. And so that would be one example. What would be the takeaways? Witness preparation is everything. Do not ever get too ahead of yourself or become too much of a fan of the case that you're putting on, think that you're infallible. Anything at any time could happen to lose a case like on the spot, and you need to be aware of that. And I let my guard down and it happened. What could you do? And so that would be my answer to your question.
It's a hard lesson, but it is a good lesson, and it's one of those lessons that I'm sure you've never forgotten since. So
Right.
it's
No, exactly.
deeply ingrained now in your psychology, for better or worse. Well, the flip side of that coin is I'm sure you've had some great successes as well. What's, I don't know, one or two of the moments in your legal career that you're most proud of?
I'm always proud of when I could expose false charges of abuse, neglect. I've had several cases like that. It's hard to pick one. But one of my favorite cases was dad was these parents, they lived one lived in Northern California, the other in Southern California, and by some weird stricture of a law, he ended up with full custody of the children. But he was just in a bad state. He was abusing narcotics pretty heavily. He was staying in these really seedy hotels with these children, with these young girls. They were like 10 and 12, I think, at the time, or something like that. They were, preteens basically,
Mhm.
and just dragging them to all of these weird, nefarious places and placing them in danger. They didn't have their own rooms. They're always staying in these hotel rooms. And mom was trying everything in her power to just get them to be with her, to basically flip custody to live with her. And this, she had reformed her life. Now, the reason why she lost custody early on was because she had made some mistakes when she was younger. She had her own issues with substances that she had to overcome, and she had a journey that she had to overcome, and she had to do these things and rehabilitate herself to a point where she could be the mom that she ultimately became. But getting there and proving that to the courts was really difficult, but it had to happen because these children's lives, I believed, were in peril. Anything could happen. Who knows what they were being exposed to, who they were being exposed to being around. I don't know. But we went into court and we fought and we fought and we fought. And we were able to just keep on piling on and accumulating evidence to the point where the judge finally agreed, despite all of these horrible things that happened to my client in the very beginning, years prior, that we were going to rescue these children. He ended up issuing an emergency order to have the children go stay with mom, and we ended up prevailing at trial and getting her the orders that we believed were making these children safe. That was one of them. More recently, I had a case where mom and dad failed romantic relationship. They had just this very strange relationship, and mom, I mean, I don't know if it was because of mental illness or whatever. I mean, I don't want to speculate on that, but she was essentially making false allegations of sexual misconduct against the father in the case. The child was like 7 or 8 years old. He was nonverbally autistic,
Mm.
or not nonverbal, but he had limited speech skills. And so she basically made and filed police reports and was trying over and over and over again to get the court to strip dad of custody because of these false allegations of sexual misconduct. His trial, we were building up this case for months and months and months. Maybe 7 or 8 months of just investigation and discovery. And all the while, he's limited to supervised visits with his child. Literally, a couple hours a week, he would have this professional monitor, and they would go and watch over them as they like hung out at the park or something. Never being able to take them home, never being able to like take them and have like these overnights the way that a normal dad would. And then, the child would he would make these insinuations that mom was telling him not to say things or specifically to say things. And the monitors were noticing that the child was very weary of going back with mom. And so we dealt with that. We got minors counsel involved to be able to essentially, if you're unaware, so dad had an attorney, I was the attorney, mom had an attorney, and then we appointed an attorney just for the minor child in the case. And after 7 or 8 months of just really digging in and proving just how ridiculous the allegations were, that there was absolutely nothing to it, ultimately, without even having to go to trial, the mom finally relinquishes the charges. And the judge makes a finding that, basically dismissing the case and restoring custody back to the father in that case. And after so much anxiety and, all of the things we had to go through months and months and months, it was just such a relief. It was the most recent example of just a case that was really satisfying to see it all the way through to its conclusion.
Absolutely. How do you make that judgment call when there are claims of abuse, and especially if it's against your client? Like, how do you know what to believe, what not to believe? How do you get past well, I'm here to defend my client, to
Yeah.
the extent of the law. I mean, obviously, taking care of the kids is, I'm assuming, always still the priority, right?
Yeah.
And have you ever had a moment where you were maybe of the mindset that maybe my client isn't the best one to have full custody or
Oh,
lion's share
yeah.
of custody or whatever it is? And what do you do in those situations?
Well, it's just I've had clients try to represent to me false allegations of abuse and neglect, and then I just simply look at the evidence and I point to the evidence, and I'll sit down with my client and I'll say, you cannot advance these claims if the judge thinks that you're lying, and it looks like you are based on what I'm looking at. What do you think the judge is going to look at? or think when he looks at this evidence, I could tell you right now that if he thinks that it's bad enough, you're going to lose custody of your child. So you got a couple of options. You're either going to do the right thing and recant, or, maybe not recant, but at least drop the claims and just, go forward some other route, or you're going to continue on this path that might end in you losing full custody of your child. That's one way. And then there's the other aspect of it where it's like, hey, she's lying about, I never abused her. I never put my hands on her. And then it's like, well, I got these pictures and I got this video and she got these injuries somewhere. And in this video, you're acting like a maniac. The judge is going to see all of this stuff. What do you think he's going to conclude? Or I'll point my, look, if you want, if it's a substance abuse case, look, they're making all these allegations about you abusing substances. They got all these pictures of you with all kinds of paraphernalia or whatever. Fine. You say that you're clean. Great. Subject yourself to 3 involuntary drug tests per month at a time of her choosing. And she'll give you notice and you'll get yourself down to the lab in 6 hours and take a test and it'll come out clean and everything will be okay. I mean, I won't be accusatory. A client that's abusing drugs is going to say, well, they're not going to want to do that for one. But that's never what happens. What usually ends up happening is, yeah, let's go for it. Let's do it. So either they're on drugs at the time and they'll knock it off because they want to pass the drug test, or they really are off. But yeah, I think that ultimately the overarching question that you asked me was, what do you do in a situation where you know that your client is not equipped to be, I guess, the primary parent in a case like that? I think ultimately the facts dictate that. Like if it's a dad that's wanting to strip full custody from mom, no visitation, or how's that going to work with your 40 to 50 hour a week schedule?
Yeah.
Mom's not going to have no visitation time. She's going to have some visitation time. So how are you going to get him to school? How are you going to do this and that? How are you going to do whatever? And by the way, status quo, child has lived with mom for the last 8 years, since he was born. How are we going to overcome all of these things? Usually the judges and the way that they do it in California, it goes a long way towards painting a realistic parenting plan for the child. And if you stick to the North Star, which is we're not making orders for the parents, we're making orders on behalf of the child. That means we don't care about the convenience of the parties. We're going to do what's best for the child. And there's already this default that both parents are supposed to have frequent and continuous visits. It's kind of hard to go against the law with that. And so when I gave my preamble earlier about trying to get into the human aspects of that, a lot of it, honestly, is just like talking to the opposing party, perhaps in mediation, perhaps in like a settlement talks, and trying to find common ground. And then when we find common ground, expanding on the common ground. And when you do that, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes you'll have clients start to rethink some of their more ridiculous requests. Like, yeah, I don't think that the child should have overnights with dad. Well, why not? Well, because they've never been overnight. Well, why don't you just give him a chance? Well, he doesn't know how to change diapers, but the instructions are on the box. Well, you know what? He takes in fast food all the time, and I just don't feel comfortable. Okay, if there's always going to be a thing, at some point you have to let dad be dad. As long as the child's not in danger, then, or it doesn't matter if it's dad or with mom. As long as there's no danger to the child, we have to allow the child to get to know both parents. And nobody's going to be perfect, and neither are you. And so, that's in a nutshell a roundabout way of describing how I try to accomplish that.
That makes perfect sense. Are there any big changes that have happened in the last decade since you've been practicing to family law in California, or do you see any big changes coming down the pipeline that might be affecting the way these sorts of cases play out in the future?
Yeah, with respect to California Civil Code 47.1, it doesn't really have much application of family law just yet, but it's maybe a preview of the way that California may be shifting. Now, that provision talks about if you bring sexual harassment allegations against a defendant, and that defendant tries to defend himself by saying, you have defamed me, and they bring a defamation lawsuit against their accuser, 47.1 imposes these fee-shifting provisions, attorney fees and cost, against the unsuccessful bringing of that defamation claim, but they make it treble damages, meaning you're going to pay triple whatever her attorney fees and costs were. If they start now, the whole theory behind that is they don't want people to just try to steamroll um, people that are making claims of sexual harassment because you're generally suing these people there's a great disparity in income, and so you don't want them to be disadvantaged because they can't afford litigation. If that kind of thinking starts making its way into family code legislation and family codes or courts start picking up on that tactic, it might drastically affect the way that some of these domestic violence cases are litigated. Because what's not the case yet, I mean, I don't think that there's enough punishment for when people bring frivolous domestic violence cases. Because what happens? You bring a claim of domestic violence against somebody, and let's just say it's frivolous, but you make it sound really good. What happens? There's usually a move out order. If you guys are living together, the person you accused has to move out. The sheriff will come and remove them from the house. They will suspend contact with not just the spouse, but the minor child. In that case, it will give them the upper hand in custody proceedings. Now, look, there's already written into it provisions, but if they start increasing those and how they punish frivolous complaints of DV, I think that might be the next big avenue of change that we may see in the coming years with respect to family law.
Gotcha. What about technology? Obviously, a lot of people now have cameras in their house. They've got the Ring
Yeah.
camera. They've got, surveillance. There's obviously social media. How has the landscape changed? I mean, I know you've been practicing for 10 years. Social media in the last 10 years has just gone crazy with,
Right.
all that stuff. And of course, what's coming down the pipeline is still going to be changing as well. How is technology playing a role in modern family law?
Well, I don't think we really fully understand how it's going to change the landscape yet, or how drastically it's going to change the reliability of evidence. I mean, yeah, there's video, ring cam footage. All it's really difficult to commit crimes not on camera nowadays. It's just not like it was in the 80s and 90s. But even more than that, what about these AI generated images that are getting better and better at faking stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, what if people start trying to introduce AI exhibits that we can't tell is AI, and it purports to be an actual photograph documenting domestic violence or substance abuse with a child present? You're going to be able to lay the foundation of it because the person that authored it is going to you're going to get the foundation in, and the defendant's going to be like, or the person accusing, be like, that's not even me. This image is completely faked. Generally, when people offer that as a defense in these kinds of cases, they lose all credibility. And generally, if you lay the foundation, it will be admitted and it will be used as evidence against you. I don't think that we fully are grasping yet how much of a problem this is going to be going forward in the years to come. Not just respect. I think people are thinking of AI the wrong way when it comes to litigation law. You see ChatGPT lawyers all the time. I feel like if you don't know anything about the law and you're going to ChatGPT, it's making you sound dumber and you don't even know it. Um, it's causing just this wide disparity between people that know and people that don't, and they're relying on these AI outlets to try to frame their legal arguments, and 90% of the time they're wrong, and the other 10% of the time it doesn't matter. I think I'm more concerned about the production of evidence and how AI is going to have a role in manipulating it. What if we don't stop at images? What if we have AI video? And next thing you know, the most reliable thing I could show a judge is a video of an incident of domestic violence. How am I going to even know if I'm a lawyer and my client gives me an AI video that purports to demonstrate domestic violence? I'm going to believe that it's real if I don't know any better. And if it's convincing enough, a judge is going to think that it's real. And the guy's like, yo, that was completely faked. If you don't have a mechanism to prove or demonstrate some kind of metadata or like hallmark or a red flag of AI, if it gets like too good, that's honestly what I'm the most fear, not just in family law. I mean, across the gamut of all areas of law. That's what I'm most fearful of going forward.
Yeah, I've shared this with people before. This was a video from, I think, about 3 years ago, and it was Will Smith eating spaghetti. It was AI generated, and you could tell it's Will Smith, and you can tell it sort
Yeah.
of understands eating spaghetti, but it was really goofy. And this was 23, 24, somewhere in there. And then we jump to modern. Let me jump through here because some of these are really, really funny. But now what AI can do, I mean, it still doesn't fully understand it. This is 2025 and he's like sucking up spaghetti, but that right there looks just like Will Smith eating spaghetti. And if you don't think that doctored footage and doctored evidence is coming down the pipeline, I mean, people are using AI to create pornographic videos of people that they want to see naked. They're doing all
Hmm.
sorts of stuff. So definitively, if you guys are watching this and you're not aware of this coming down the pipeline, know that it's coming because this right here is not Will Smith. This is not spaghetti. That is not orange juice. That is quite literally the evolution in a year and a half of Will Smith eating spaghetti, eating whatever it happens to be. And I mean, Will Smith is a well-known individual, obviously, but clearly this is coming down the pipeline and it is both fascinating and scary at the same time. And I don't know what the actual stopgap's going to look like to prevent those sorts of abuses, but it's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, no, what's scary is even that the cleaned up video still sort of looked like AI because it's disproportionate or whatever. But in a year and a half from now,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean
I figured they're
that's
gonna
that's
get
the
those
big
kinks
issue.
out.
The jump in a year and a half is already to where if you didn't know, you'd be like, I think that's supposed to. But
Yeah,
give it a year and a half, give it 2 years, and it'll be higher def. And then of course, getting it to fake artifacts of, oh, this was the Ring camera, so make it look like it's a Ring camera or whatever. Like, eventually, I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of a maybe even a blockchain. Like, oh, this is
mm,
definitively Ring camera recording because you can see that it's here in the cloud and everything like that. That's where it's going to have to go, I would imagine.
yeah.
But even still, it's going to be an issue coming down the pipeline. So I find it fascinating. Well, speaking of weird things, because obviously Will Smith eating spaghetti is a weird direction for a conversation to go into. Let me ask you this: what's one of the most absurd things you've encountered? I find that attorneys tend to have some of the best stories of just like, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe X, Y, and Z happened. I can't believe the judge said this or the witness. I mean, you already gave the one example where the witness was like, "Oh yeah, no, we were totally talking about the case beforehand." But what's one or two of the most absurd things you've encountered in your practice of law, Omar?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of absurd things. I think it's always hilarious when there's a thing called petimony in California where we're literally crafting parenting agreements for cats or dogs, and support is being awarded for the care of the pets, and it's holding up some of these marital judgments. Um, there's this other case that I'm not directly involved in, but that I've covered. I have a podcast that I put out there called the Tilted Lawyer Podcast, and I've been talking about this case, this Laura Owens case. It is one of the most absurd examples of. It involves this lady. She initiates a parenting petition in California, or I apologize, in Arizona. Um, she claims to be pregnant with twins. The person that she was pregnant with is this gentleman who played The Bachelor on television. And she claims that she was pregnant with his twins, even though they'd never had intercourse. They had like oral sex or something like that. They had one night out, and she's now claiming to be pregnant with his twins. Initiates the paternity petition. There's a response that's filed. She lodges or submits across social media all of these fake images of ultrasounds that she's basically stealing from the internet or like her sister or something. And they're progressing through the case. And then maybe 4 or 5 months in, when she's no longer pregnant, she kind of comes clean. Oh, well, just kidding. I'm not pregnant anymore. I had a miscarriage. And then the guy that was on the other end is like, first of all, she didn't have a miscarriage. She was never pregnant. Show me any evidence that she even went to a doctor's or had an appointment for a checkup on a miscarriage, or just show me any evidence, any medical evidence whatsoever that she was actually pregnant. Now, mind you, she claims in her pleadings and was confirmed by the prospective dad in this case that not only did she demonstrate that she had a positive pregnancy test, like one of those pee on the sticks, but he
Mhm.
took the test. She took the test right in front of him and demonstrated that she was pregnant according to this test. Now, there was never any follow up visits. They didn't go to the hospital or anything like that to confirm. There was never any actual ultrasounds that were ever produced. Um, they go into trial. and all of this stuff comes out. And it comes out, well, before I even get into that, there were literally text messages. So she's claiming not only that she's pregnant with twins, she claimed that she may have been sexually assaulted by this gentleman. But then they have all these text messages going back and forth where she's saying stuff like, listen, if you want to give me a second chance and you want to date me, I will have an abortion. And then maybe we could start over. But if you don't want to date me, then I'm going to keep this child, basically trying to extort him. And I'm going to keep the baby and I'm going to put you on child support. I'm going to do all these things. And then she would say these off the wall things like, if you've only been inside me, if you only felt how tight I am, you would think completely different about me, in basically implying that they'd never had intercourse. And so all of these text messages, they come into trial. And at the end of it all, the judge, basically, to make a long story short, initiates this judgment where she states, this lady is a liar. I have no evidence to believe that she was ever actually pregnant. It appears to me that she faked the pregnancy. I believe that she maybe perhaps illegally extorted this young man, and she referred it for prosecution in the Maricopa County District Attorney's Office. And it was just recently where she's been indicted for 7 felony counts of perjury and fraud and all kinds of stuff. She's facing 33 and a half years in prison. I've never seen a perjury case or somebody making these false claims even get prosecuted, let alone via 7 felony counts. That would be the most outlandish in recent memory, anyway.
Crazy. That is absolutely crazy. But I guess that's the world in which we live, which is where it is. Total random shift of tone for just a minute. But who is your favorite fictional attorney?
Oh, favorite fictional attorney. I would have to, well, Harvey Specter, obviously, right? From Suits.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the guy if you're going fictional. I was going to say something like the Lincoln lawyer, Matthew McConaughey or whatever. I mean, or who's that other one that everybody says, To Kill a Mockingbird, that guy.
Atticus Finch.
Yeah,
A lot
and
of
I'm
people
not going to
say
say Atticus Finch.
from My Cousin Vinny is another
Oh, that
popular.
would be one. Yeah.
Probably the most common one that people give me is like, "Oh, Vinny from My Cousin Vinny." So like, "Oh, you have no idea that is such an accurate representation of law." I'm like, "Well, there you go." So I always just like to
Nah.
get a feel for that, which is funny. So let me ask you this: how do you? What's the biggest misconception people bring into your office about what you can or can't do, and how do you handle situations where a client's expectation on something like custody or asset division just doesn't align with reality?
Well, just keep it on topic. Like, you have to have, it's like that thing about good and evil, right? Like every client that comes in my office, like they're here because they want help, because they genuinely believe that mom or dad is evil. And so they want orders that give them full legal and physical custody with no visitation to the other parents. Like, okay, well, we can't, the judge is not going to order no visitation. So what would you be comfortable with? And then they'll say something like, well, I just don't want, I mean, fine, give them some visitation, but no overnights. And I want it to be supervised. Okay, but why? Why do you want it to be supervised? And then, if it's some kind of answer other than because I think that mom or dad is a direct danger to the child, or there's going to be some kind of parental neglect or abuse going on that's already been demonstrated. You gotta have to walk them back from this. Like, look, that's still dad, and he still has a right to raise him. He's still, I mean, number one, I think the biggest misconception, people, they generally don't understand why or what legal custody is. They'll ask me, I want to have full legal custody. Why? And that's basically all it is the rights of both parents to weigh in on education, school, extracurricular activities, health concerns, health issues related to the children. That's generally a right that both parents will have, unless they do some nefarious thing that disqualifies them from that. 99% of the time, if 100% of the time, there's not a reason to do it, the judge is going to order joint legal custody. And so you got to talk to people like that. That means that you're going to have to meet and confer about certain issues related to your child's upbringing. And then the physical custody thing. Parents believe that they should be the primary parent. And I know it's really irritating, but dad or mom is going to have visitation. And you're not going to like it. They're going to have every other weekend. They might have midweek visits. They might have like a 2-2-3 schedule. They might have something like that. If you guys live close enough and there's no reason not to do it, a judge is inclined, will be inclined to order 50-50. And if you argue to me, well, it's just not fair, it's not convenient to me, or it's going to be too hard, the judge isn't going to care about that because he's not making orders for your convenience. He's making orders in the best interest of your child. And so the hardest part of the job is just getting people on a plane of reality where they could live with this idea that I'm going to have to co-parent with this guy. He's not the evil person that I've envisioned him to be. He might be evil to you because he cheated on you, or she cheated on you, or he did this, or he did that, or he wasn't everything you hoped and dreamed he would be, or she would be. But it doesn't matter. That's still your child's parents, and you don't get to make that call for them. Child has a right to know both parents. And so just getting people on that plane, once I get them there, it's much easier. It's just the getting them there that takes a while, sometimes a day, a week, a month. Sometimes hearing the judge say certain things in court is helpful. And that's how I would answer that.
Oh, it's fair. That makes sense. Well, Omar, I appreciate your time. I don't want to eat up your whole day because we've already been at this for almost an hour at this point. So I'm going to be as respectful of your time as I can be. So here in a minute, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask you our three closing questions. I'll give them to you right now so you can percolate on them, and we'll jump over and show your site. I'm also going to share your. I should have known from the get-go you were a podcaster. As soon as I saw the ambient purpley haze, good mic, and everything else, I'm like, oh, this guy definitely has a podcast. So we're also going to share the Tilted Lawyer podcast. I've actually subscribed to your channel on YouTube. I'll encourage my listeners to do that as well.
I appreciate you.
One other question I have for you is are there law blogs that you follow? I'm a fan of Viva Barnes Law, Viva Fry out of, he's a Montreal litigator turned YouTuber rumbler with Robert Barnes. I used to follow Ricada Law and what's his name? I can see Robert Gavalier, whatever his name is. I don't know if you follow any legal blogs or whatnot or podcasts, but are there any that you particularly enjoy?
Yeah, well, Legal Eagle has been around forever. I've been, perusing his for a long time. There's some.
I've heard some people they have questions about his actual legal advice, but the actual quality of his stuff is very
Yeah, the
low.
production quality for like Supreme Court decisions. And lately I've been listening to there's these lawyers that come on to the Midas Touch. I think the guy that the main guy on that is like a law professor. And the other guy is actually like a practitioner. I listen to some of those. Other than that, Ask Two Lawyers is pretty good. I've listened to them. I've actually been on their show. They've been on mine. And so those would be a few of them. Emily Baker's pretty good. I follow her for some of her coverage of these trials that she does. You can see on my channel right there, I do a lot of stuff involving Blake Lively, or I've been doing that lately. There's the Laura Owens case that I was referencing earlier, some of her crazier court hearings, the moon bump story, things like that. And so, yeah, that would be a few of them.
Very cool. Well, again, I'm just going to give a quick shout out because very, very cool. Talking with the Tilted Lawyer, Omar Serrato. And you can find him. We'll put a link to his channel down below as well. I don't know if that's on your actual webpage or not, but you should definitely have a link to it from your site. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Sure, you do that however you want to do it. But I'm like, it's a really cool thing. And again, I'm a huge fan of the podcast in general because it's a great way to let people know who you are and really connect with you. So I think your personality definitely shines through in this one, in this conversation we're having. But I imagine your personality shines through in these as well. And clearly, you got about 25,000 followers, so you're doing something
Yeah,
right. So congrats on that. That's pretty huge. So the
appreciate
three
it.
questions I will have for you in a minute. Well, number one is if you could wave a magic wand and change something about your practice, what would you change? Number two, if you can go back in time, meet young Omar, give him some advice without, breaking the space-time continuum. What advice would you give yourself and why?
Mm,
And number three is if I gave you my magical pencil, which has just enough lead to make one change to the law and just enough eraser to erase one law, and I could let you erase or change or add one law to the books, what law would you change and why? It can be local law, state law, national law, sweeping ramifications, or just getting rid of parking tickets. While you percolate on that, that we already jumped over. We are talking with Omar Serrato of the Eagle Law Firm. Again, his website is eaglelawfirm.com. He runs a law firm that does criminal law, civil litigation, immigration, family law, and trials. Obviously, he seems to focus very heavily these days on family law. So if you're especially in the San Bernardino area and you need an attorney who can help you, it seems like he would be a great resource. So again, we'll have links to his information down below, as well as his number, which is 909-757-6540. Our final sponsor for today is Rank with News. Is not being in the news regularly costing your firm or your company credibility and visibility? Do you feel that getting found in Google search is more about dumb luck than science? What if there was a guaranteed way to get your law firm or your business featured in major national publications like Yahoo News, Bloomberg, Reuters, AP News, and others, and see those ranking locally, nationally, sometimes in under 8 hours for major competitive keywords that people were actually looking for? What else would you need to know? Rank with News is simply the most powerful way to hit page 1 in under 2 weeks, safely, organically, and permanently. This is like guaranteed SEO or search engine optimization on steroids, ranking quickly and sticking long term. If you're tired of poor visibility for your business or your firm, please visit rankwithnews.com to learn more and book a time to speak with a specialist about featuring your firm or your business in major 6, 7, 8, even 9-figure per month traffic sites, and basically growing your business to the next level where you want it to be. Get more media exposure, rank higher in Google, build credibility, and win more customers and clients with rankwithnews.com. All right, so Omar, number one, I give you a magic wand. And with this magic wand, you can make some change to your firm. What change, if you could do anything, would you change about your firm?
I think that I would, and I'm probably honestly already probably headed towards this direction, but I think I would like to focus more heavily on mediation for some of these clients, especially with respect to custody and visitation. I think that we do a really good job of just doing that, and at least redirecting people towards, okay, you guys could sit. I mean, obviously we're excluding all of the, like DV cases, abuse cases, things like that. If it's just a normal case, and you just got a couple of parents here that they don't like each other, they didn't work out for whatever reason, they're just recently divorced, but now they got these children. They're both generally good people. Rather than dragging them through a court proceeding where they're going to be talking about what bad parents the others are and all these bad things that they did, why don't we just bring them into our office and sit them both down and just like mediate something with them, but not in a way that they would get from like a court mediator like in San Bernardino County or Riverside County, where they have no investment in anybody and they're just they're going to give their reports or recommendations to a judge. Just come and sit down with us, and then we'll sit and then we'll spend a couple of hours and we'll craft parenting agreements that work for you. It could save you guys potentially tens and thousands of dollars in legal fees, and probably make for more effective orders. Honestly, it's not going to be possible in all cases, but I think that would be something that I'm really interested in moving forward, just because I've seen enough blood and carnage on the custody and visitation front that is so unnecessary. I'd like to find a way to rectify that as much as I can before my career ends at some point. I think your second question was, what was your second question?
We traveled back in time, meet young Omar, and you can give yourself some advice without breaking the space-time continuum. Other than the obvious, again, buy a lot of Bitcoin and hold it to 100K. What advice would you give yourself and why?
Well, I think that when you're starting out as a young attorney, your instinct is, number one, you're very insecure because you don't know what you don't know. And everybody has more experience than you, and you're overly defensive in the things that you don't know. And because of that, you tend to fight harder over unnecessary things because you don't want to be made to be wrong. You don't want your inexperience to show. And you think that you're in this to change the world, and you think that you're going to affect all of this change. And it don't work that way. You're not changing the world with your breach of contract case. You're not, giving the big Atticus Finch speech or the Matthew McConaughey speech in A Time to Kill. It's not what this is. And so take a deep breath and learn and observe. Do not be so quick to litigate the things that you don't know. Take time and absorb the law. If you have the ability to work under a mentor, I cannot explain to you how much time that's going to save you in your future going forward. Secondly, don't be so quick to take a position in your cases. Absorb all the information from your clients. Get all of it and get all the information from them, and then figure out where the cases are weak and strong. And at the same time, invite as much information as you can from the people that you're representing, because look, you don't know if they're telling you the truth or not. And if they're not telling you the truth, you need to know that. Lest you find yourself in a position where you're in court and you just realized at the time that you're in front of the judge that they lied to you about some nefarious thing. That sucks. I've been there before. And so really wait. If you can afford it, like it's not an emergency, and even then you could afford it, wait to formulate your legal strategy in these cases. If you simply do that, you will save yourself a lot of amended complaints, a lot of unnecessary motions, a lot of unnecessary cost to your clients by simply being patient and waiting for the facts to develop. And as the facts develop, so too will your legal theories of the case.
Yeah, it makes sense. Number 3, magical pen or pencil in this case. Just enough lead in here, it's almost out, but you can make one change to a law, or add a new law, or erase one law off the books. What would you add, edit, or change?
Since it's so topical recently, California's 47.1 was brought about with the best of intentions, and it's designed to protect prospective victims of sexual harassment. Like, for example, in the workplace. Like, for example, you've been sexually harassed by a CEO of Google or something, and they're worth like $1 billion, and you might be worth $80,000 a year. And so the way they're going to defend themselves is they're going to litigate you to the gills and bring these defamation and fraud claims against you, and hope that you just go away. That's how it's been litigated now for dozens of years. Well, the answer to that in 47.1 was these fee shifting provisions related to treble damages, where if you bring defamation as a defense and you lose, then you're going to pay triple the cost, right? That's supposed to protect prospective victims. And it's based on anti-SLAPP principles. It's based on constitutional principles of protecting privileged speech. And so there's that. But what they haven't contemplated was what if you have somebody that wants to weaponize allegations of sexual harassment and the finances are not so disparate, or maybe they are, but it doesn't matter. Maybe they're maliciously bringing these claims. The way that 47.1 reads right now is you'd almost have to prove that they were outright lying and therefore being malicious or recklessly disregarding the truth in their sexual harassment claims in order to not be shielded under 47.1. And so you bring these claims, and I lost what I was trying to say. If you bring these claims you're weaponizing it. So if you're weaponizing a sexual harassment complaint, if you're savvy enough of an attorney and you're doing it against whom you're trying to weaponize sexual harassment enough, and your claims are just believable enough not to be malicious, like, okay, maybe it might be ridiculous, but that doesn't mean that there's not some kind of merit to it. It might just be that subjectively you're overly sensitive, but to a reasonable person, that wouldn't be sexual harassment to us. And so you lost your case, but it wasn't malicious. Well, if you do that, you may be violating the due process of somebody that's genuinely been defamed in imposing these fee-shifting responsibilities or damages against them unnecessarily, perhaps chilling their ability to defend themselves in a counterclaim against your client who has weaponized sexual harassment. And so the way that I would change it is to allow for a mechanism that maybe you don't bring the defamation lawsuit, but maybe you like check a box where you reserve the ability to do that based on evidence that comes out at trial. And if the evidence that comes out at trial, like similar to like a malicious prosecution case, then you have reserved the ability to do that, and you take the facts that came out in trial and then bring your defamation claim without having to worry about treble damages and something like that. That would be an example of one law that I would change in the way that I would change it. And I'm only bringing that up because I just talked about it the most this morning.
Well, it was kind of where I thought you were going to be going with that, so that makes sense, and I think that's a good answer. Well, Omar, I do appreciate you taking the time to talk with me and my listeners. I do always like to let my guests have the final word. Are there any parting words of wisdom or last thoughts you'd like to leave our guests with?
Yeah, just be nice to people. And just generally be nice. And if you're thinking about suing somebody or you're getting sued, I recognize how difficult litigation is. And if you're going to go down this road, just make sure you pick an attorney. If it's not me or whoever it's going to be, just make sure it's somebody that really has a handle on the humanity of your case. Because if you don't do that, you may find yourself represented by an individual that's going to bill you to the gills and you're going to pay him a lot of money. And he's going to file a lot of things that are going to look really nice and official, but they're going to have nothing to do with what you wanted to happen in the case. And you're not going to be happy with the representation, and you might be out 10, 20, $50,000. Just be wary of who your clients are as people. I think you'll have a better results if you are able to identify that your attorney has a measure of humanity to him. And there are some of them out there, contrary to popular belief.
I agree with that 100%. And I try to interview as many of them as I can. Well,
So,
again, Omar, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast today. This has been the Attorney Post. I've been chatting with attorney Omar Serrato of the Eagle Law Firm, and also the Tilted Lawyer podcast. Again, we'll put links down below to all of his information. As a reminder, though, this podcast does deal with a lot of different legal topics. It does not itself constitute legal advice. And if you have a legal issue, you should always seek the advice of a competent attorney in your area who focuses on the matter that you need help with. Obviously, if you live in or around San Bernardino, California, even down to LA. I think Omar would be a wonderful resource for you. So please reach out to him if you have need of his services. If you're watching this podcast on any of the major podcast repositories, we do always appreciate a share, a review, or whatever it makes sense. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, as always, as well. But the number one thing you can do to help us grow this podcast is simply this. If you know someone who would benefit from the information found in this particular episode, please share it with them. Help them to get the information they need to make the best legal decisions they can, because as I always say, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Until next time, thanks for listening, guys, and have a good one.